Oh, interesting. All right. We're playing an FM, who I am 1-1 against. Good luck, sir. Or madam. Already thinking on move one. C4, A6. We got the Gambit glasses ready. The trickiest line against the English. Didn't even want it. A3, because then B5 could potentially pester the knight with B4. Takes. We continue to take the center and bother this knight. Fun line. E4, covered on my channel, of course. E4 stops B5 a different way, and it's not really a Gambit full option. I'll just play here E5. Because now I'm just looking at the hole created on D4. I mean, it's not really something many English players will do, play E4 on the second move or at all. Right? What I'm going to play here is bishop to C5, actually. What I'm doing is taking advantage of this move A6. Because if my bishop is ever hit, we'll come back to A7 very nicely as a storage square, scoping out this diagonal. So this should be very nice. They've played C4 and E4, so probably weaken the dark squares. We didn't get to do our Gambit, but we'll just set up with D6, knight C6, and maybe F5. We'll see. Something white can do is knight F3, which asks me an interesting question. If I play D6, they actually have the opportunity to play D4 right away. And then takes, and we're talking about a totally different kind of position, which is probably not what I wanted. If I play knight C6, covering E5 and D4, then there is knight takes E5. Wow, this was not on my radar as a good option. So definitely not taking. I'm definitely not taking. Immediately off the table. Knight F3 just stops this, and then they have the D4 square, beautiful center, and I'm probably not hanging on to that pawn anyway. By that logic, I'm just probably playing D6. The other option is take G1. Rook takes G1, which few people realize is an option. But then I could go check G3 and take H2. What's happening there? Probably Rook G2. Maybe Queen H1. No, I would say I have the upper hand there because they've wasted a move, but so have I with A6. And I don't have any pieces out, neither do they. They're probably going to long castle quickly. And it's playable, but I don't think there's much compensation. Takes, and takes F4 is also compelling. But this isn't really the way William likes to play chess. I'm just going to play the very calm D6. As is almost categorically my advice against F4 or F5 hits in King's Pawn. Don't take it. Don't take it. You give them what they want with like then control over this square and then they'll eat it back. Don't do it. Just get your bishop there and play D6 once you've gotten your bishop on the other side of this door. Right? The bishop then scopes out this diagonal with the pawn not in the way and will forever stop castling as long as he exists. D6, on the other hand, supports the E5 pawn against any capture here. And with the pawn there, prevents this diagonal from getting blocked. With the A6 move included, as I just mentioned, proves quite useful. There is no knight to A4 in this position, which would trade off otherwise for my best piece. My piece causing white lots of problems here. I will just bring it right back to A7, and the knight will be a little silly on the edge of the board. So my setup is actually all very nice, useful moves. White's setup is a Vienna, where I actually already got my ideal setup against the Vienna, but they also played C4, which is not useful. Stopping the bishop and lacking control here. So I quite like my position. If I got to move again, I would probably play bishop to G4. If this were a bishop instead of a pawn, or we're potentially having a different conversation, there could be some like check and then knight moves, check, winning the bishop. Something to watch out for. I don't think they actually have it until I would move this knight. But bishop to G4 is a very simple idea. My next move is going to be knight D4. So for example, D3. It's hard to recommend something for white then. Maybe they play H3. I think that's what they're considering. Is bishop G4 that good? A6, am I memeing? I'm always serious. No, I'm always having fun. Yeah, A6. I played against titled players You must be new here. But yes, that is a valid reaction. No, it's fun. It's fun. You should check out the full video on the Graif Gambit, as it is called, against the English. No, we want to hit him with b5, and we make this move useful in all cases. Okay. Bishop comes to g2 because it couldn't come out this way. It's not like it does more on g2. If I play bishop g4, h3, takes, knight d4. No, I mean, this has to be good. Bishop g2, they still, the problem white has is they will never castle short. They will never castle short. I control d4 so well, they're not going to play it. My bishop just took away this knight, and all of my moves have been about just this bishop. Just this bishop. They're making sure there's no d4. These pieces are working, all of them, to control d4. And then a6, my other move, is just working so that there's no knight a4, and I can come here. Otherwise, this bishop, just by existing, just wreaks havoc on your position by just not being able to castle. It's so unbelievably frustrating. And it's because you moved this pawn. So against Vienna's, this is the setup I like. It's like as if e4, e5, knight c3, or is kind of what I'm talking about, and then f4. We've included these moves, but my move is useful and theirs is the opposite. They need to arrange it along castles, what they needed to do. I mean, that's their only way out. But it was gonna likewise be difficult to do. Their position was actually pretty bad. Bishop e2 is probably what they should play. I mean, they're probably realizing it now. Like g3, it's not consistent with that. But bishop g2, my knight just lives here. Again, you can't short castle. Well, okay. They'll play h3. The thing is, what can happen is a well-timed pawn takes f4. If I control d4 so well that I don't even need the pawn to stop d4, and I could follow that up, like let's say this knight didn't exist, if I could follow that up with queen h4, then obviously that's extremely strong. d3 logical, so there's none of this. I could play knight d4, totally. Bishop g2, there's no obvious follow-up. Sorry about that. It's New York City, what can you do? Knight here, knight here. I don't know, like they'd look pretty. I think as far as causing problems goes, I like h5, h4 best. I could take it. Queen takes, knight d4. This is good. I mean, I forced the queen to an awkward square just to guard c2. Right? I mean, I have a lot of good moves. Queen, maybe just has to go right back to d1, man. All right, let's do the most annoying option, which I think is h5. Because now I introduce a whole new player into this game, which is the idea of going here. I think if I were white, I would push h3. Which, okay, just obliges me to go takes, and knight d4. Because if you don't, then this comes. Then I can start really combining ideas. Bishop g2, I can kick you right out of there. So, okay, they play h3. And I'll take it. And we'll jump in knight d4. The thing about... Okay, no, it's good, it's good. Yeah. Queen comes back. I like this inclusion. I intuitively did because it softened this point. And I wanted to attack right there. Question is how? h4, g4. Bishop still defends. There are a couple moves from getting out of here. Still not obvious how. This is an important moment to maybe find out how we get them. Potentially it's just knight e7. This is another option I'm considering. c6, queen b6. c6 is... And queen b6. There is like knight a4 though. I mean, otherwise the idea would just kind of be playing f5 and getting the rooks. right? I'm just playing with the rooks. Let's play knight e7. I need that guy out anyway. I think he's going to do a couple useful things from here. He wasn't coming to f6 anyway. So f5 is now actually probably better supported. What I'm looking at, another idea, is h4, g4, take f4, and he6. Hitting the bishop again, asking it where it's going to go. And then the queen comes out to f6. Knight has a lot of nice squares here. But this is a little tricky to develop. Because even if you play bishop e3, then where does your queen go? So that there's no knight f3 and no knight c2. No, this guy, needs to defend a lot of squares. Bishop to g2 doesn't get you any closer to your goal of getting the king out of the middle, right? Castles, even if this is blocked, is still a discovered attack. So at minimum, I'll play knight b3, check, take here. Okay, I mean, bishop g2 is like a useful move, but it's not. So h4, g4, they still want to do this in one go, which I don't want them to do. I could play f5. Takes, I mean, I feel like I just made them look like a genius. The diagonal just opened. Sesame. And knight g6 immediately there is f5. So we need to be smart about this. I think the smartest option is the very calm c6, stunting this diagonal and giving the queen dark square options to come out, and also taking away any knight d5. And asking them how they are going to get their pieces out. Castles, so like I could have gone, but it would have, I think, been a bit of an overreaction. And it would have been pressing my hand a little bit. I am kind of saying, okay, what's your idea? This is well timed when I don't have this. So let's see. What we could do is trade in queen b6. I think that is quite annoying. Or the immediate queen b6. Yes, just the immediate queen b6. So that works well without knight a4 as a way to hit the queen and trade off here. So they're trading off for my strong knight, but after bishop takes d4, we still have them cut off in both directions. There's definitely no castling this way. And getting these pieces out continues to be difficult. There's pressure here. Whoops. There's pressure there on b2. Not saying I'm going to take it right now, but and then also there's an idea of, well, check and take the pawn. Right? Shout out to the inclusion of these moves. If the pawn were on h2, this would just be defended, and it would just maybe not be the end of the world for them. The queen e2. Good thing I didn't capture myself. And now I think we'll just play the very simple castles long and again ask them, how are you going to bring your pieces out? This bishop is once again stuck, and I would just take on b2. I think if I'm white here, I play f5. Because otherwise I play f5, and your king is now getting stuck in the middle, and this f5 looks, when you got a 4 box of pawns, that tells you there's going to be a lot of pawn trades. Imagine if both those files open up for my rooks, right onto that king, right onto the f2 square. So if I'm white, I'm playing f5, but that's not the world's only pawn break. I have d5 as another pawn break. g6, potentially they can close it again. Interesting position. So they just give up and they're playing king d1. They're just like, king d1, king c2, let me just get over there. Valid. Valid. We won the battle, but the war rages on. Let's play king b8 as I think about what to do. I want to get my king to a safer spot as well. So I go there. Do I play bishop f2? I want my knight here, right? There's a lot of things I want. Do I play d5? Maybe d5 is just simply a good idea. d5 seems to just be opening things where their king generally is located. All right, let's give it a shot. It's not even the sort of move I think a lot about. And in fact, if I held tight, it wasn't clear how they were getting out still. So it might have been a little rash, but we'll see. Time will tell. Maybe I could have prepared this better with my rooks. I held tight for a long time without striking, just pressing, pressing, pressing. I'm very proud of myself. All right, we got a lot of good options here. Knight f5 hits this, and I obviously want to come to d4. Knight f5 hits this, right? So we're talking about maybe queen f3 as a defense. And then we just need to slide this out the way. But there's other good moves here, like e4 or take c4 that also contribute to the blow up of their position. So let's trade on c4 though, which can't be bad. And now let's play this nice move, knight to f5. Okay, so I've helped their bishop, which, you know, I didn't want to do, but I did. But this is a weakness. And knight d4 and queen g6. We got a lot of good options. I do want to play with both my rooks. So like I want them like here and here. And nothing was wrong with any move in these positions. But knight takes g3 is serious. I mean, I'll just take here and I'll just eat material with less than 0 compensation. Queen d3 is an option. Okay, b4. Okay, they've had enough of defending. I could move my bishop, and it's actually not obvious how you don't just die to knight d4. Let's see here. Like, if I go like bishop f2, I guess rook d1. Okay, let me just take this. Here, I also had queen g6 as an additional resource. Queen g6, king moves, and then e4 actually really shoves it in their face and gives them no compensation, right? So this is check, otherwise I get mated. Oh, it's even better than I thought. The rook is hanging with check if they go king b3. So then it's like, where do you go? Yeah, so they wanted, I understand b4. I understand b4. They were like, oh, okay, fine, I give the rook, but at least this is open. Okay, f5, I actually missed this. I missed this and I only have one option, which is queen takes f5. Okay, well, worse things have happened. We're up 2 pawns. No, that was a good move. All right, well, I mean, we're just up 2 pawns in the endgame. So not bad from a technical standpoint that we got to an endgame that, you know, we are quite confident that we can win. How to start this off? I think just knight g3 and roll. Bishop e3 is an option. I actually like bishop e3. There's no reason to let them hang around with this bishop pair. And I think this is hard trade to dodge because then the rook comes into d3. Yeah, so they do try to dodge it. But the rook comes into d3. I'm aware of this. However, okay, they're going there, which I thought maybe introduced a mating net. I like their aggressive style. They were kind of just forced, like here and here could end the game. Just want to, you know, be careful here. d4. So let's say knight d6. Bishop takes e5, b5. Take, king a5. Rook a3, that's mate at the end of that line. So this is a good move by that logic. Takes e5, right, is inevitable mate here and here. Otherwise, we're hitting c4 and preparing b5. Ah, so they didn't see that line. No, I mean, I think I was just up a couple pawns there, and it was... All right, nice mating pattern. That was actually a very pretty mating pattern that we just tracked down this king, supporting the bishop here, with the rook coming to a3. This knight that's pinned covers b5, which I always, when I was little, I thought that was a weird rule in chess. Like, you should be able to go king takes b5 in this position and trade kings. Like, it shouldn't count. But okay, it does. King a5 and rook a3. Nice study-esque mate where, like, everything's barely controlled. Very interesting game. Very, very interesting game. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. I think this was a high-quality chess game between 2 good players. 2 very good players. So, c4, a6, let's talk about the opening. He played e4 in the game. So, actually, let me get to the opening last. Let me get to the opening last. And the most compelling lines, because most people in this position are, of course, just going to play knight to c3. Knight c3 is typically what English players play on move 2, like basically have it pre-moved. Like the knights come into c3 if you played c4. Why wouldn't it? It's not even blockading the own pawn anymore. Where else would the knight go? And it also becomes more compelling because you control b5 twice. a6, ostensibly the only idea of it was to play b5, but now it becomes better. Okay, let's talk about this after. My opponent played a weird option. All the way down here, the sixth most common move in the position, 30% of games, e4. So with e4, I think part of e4 is they think I'm just kind of like messing around on the side of the board. I'm just going to give them the whole center, which I'm not going to do. I am not one of those mess around on the side of the board players. Like if someone does it to me, I'm gladly just take the center, take the space, and then from the center of the board, just walk them down, right? And like start looking to the king. But e4, okay, it's not a bad move. It's not just playing for tricks because b5 is now not a compelling option. It doesn't bother this knight with b4, and this is really just a loss of a pawn kind of in a vacuum. So I wasn't going to do it, but instead I played here e5. We get an exclam for it. Shout out to Lee Chess Tools for giving this analysis. And my opponent now just develops knight c3. I develop bishop c5, and f4 is an error. I'll talk about this in a moment. If my opponent just proceeded with knight f3, this is actually interesting. Yeah, if I play knight c6, okay, there is knight takes e5. Because if there weren't, and they just had to play d3, and I was able to achieve this with d6, so now I could recapture my pawn. Okay, this is actually a really solid setup. Even without that pawn having moved, this is a really solid setup. And something I might try to do is play f5 and knight f6, or even not, even just play here and look towards my really nice d4 square. Alas, with knight f3 here, just because of the move order quirks, I can't play these moves at once. It's not like I did a move other than a6, but d6 here, defending e5 more solidly, there's just d4. Right, and then takes before my knight was able to control this. So that doesn't work. Knight c6, there's knight takes e5, yes. If I take back, there's d4, and white here is doing well after trading off in this position with their nice center fork trick. And if takes f2, again, they have a lot of space. If they're able to play d4, then the pawns on c4 and e4 look like it makes sense. They're part of a big center, right? But if they're just like this and I control d4, then it looks like there's just a gaping hole in between them. What I would probably play against knight takes e5, being real with y'all, is knight f6. I'd play knight f6 and look towards like, okay, knight takes e6, d takes e6, and this looks like a Stafford or a Bush guess to me. Just we've played these moves c4 and a6. Otherwise, if the pawns were back home, I've seen that position a million times. So that's probably what I would do. Against knight takes e5. I don't know if that's so crazy. I guess here I don't have d5 anymore, right? But I could play knight d4. Interesting position. Okay, but that was their best option. Knight f3 and trying to play d4 as quickly as possible. Great explanations, thank you. But they played here f4. And again with f4, it's a move that's really fishing for a specific response. And the specific response, every King's Gambit player and every Vienna player, their face lights up anytime you play pawn takes f4. Even if the engine recommends it, just don't do it. I struggle to find lines where or positions where like it's almost a categorical rule. Stop taking this pawn. Just stop. Okay? Don't accept it. Because what happens, okay, like whether they allow queen h4 check or not, but I mean, you can see here, like they'll just play d4. I don't have this pawn stopping that anymore. And here it's actually just very simple for white to like run me over with like e5 and force my knight like back to g8, but then also take this pawn with like a huge massive position. So that's what they want. But you just don't have to take it. Just leave it there and just play d6. Bishop c5, d6. That's it. That's all you got to do. And what we do from here, right? So all of these moves, all of these pawns actually contribute to the health of this bishop. Suddenly this pawn is just hanging out on f4 doing what? I don't know, because this bishop here is now going to take advantage of the fact that it's not on f2 and just cutting castling. And you saw even against an FM how unbelievably frustrating that is, right? So what can white do from here? They play knight f3. They're looking to play d4, make that trade and try to get in front of this bishop. I say absolutely not. I'm just playing knight c6, simply defending e5, right? Defend on e5 and d4. a6, very useful move, right? Knight to a4 would be very annoying because this bishop is my best piece, tying him completely down, and it just comes here. And however annoying you think this bishop is, it's about 10 times more annoying. Like, just not being able to castle is just so frustrating in a line that really requires castling in this direction. Castling here feels incredibly artificial, and you know, that was kind of demonstrated in this game. There was no great option here for my opponent. I think they're already worse. Yeah, minus 0.8 here. Okay, g3, and we just continue to develop the pieces very logically. Bishop to g4. Every single one of my moves I've made centers around this bishop and this square, right? So bishop to g4 is still targeting here and looking at ideas of knight to d4 jump again. So my opponent now just plays the very calm move d3. Again, struggling to find ways that the bishop and the queen can maybe move to allow a castle here. Can you arrange bishop e3 somehow to trade off for this bishop? But the queen doesn't have access to these squares because it's going to be hit by knight d4 because this bishop's there to trade off. So just, and oh, by the way, you have to take into account any moment maybe I can trade and come to queen h4, but I'm probably not going to do that. So tough situation for white here. They play your d3, right? h3 just kind of is fine, but it encourages me to make a trade that I probably wanted to make anyway. Knight d4, similar thing happened in the game. Okay, queen has to come back home. They're no closer to castling long because knight c2 is a nasty problem. d3 played, very reasonable move, but now, oh, I can't exclaim for this. It was actually the top engine move, h5. h5, this is the first move I make. Okay, that's not all about this bishop. Finally, we're like, okay, I've got you totally pinned down. It's going to take white a number of moves to figure something out to castle in one direction or the other. So finally, I've got you. Now, how can I create problems? I see this bishop potentially coming to g2. What I want is h4 and maybe making this pawn weak, but also maybe playing h3, driving you back to f1, and then knight to d4 becomes very, very effective there. So, you know, we're looking at this pawn chain. We're looking at the king stuck in the middle, and we're trying to undermine that with the queen. Still, actually, knight f6, you'll note I never played this move. It's like not like a bad move or anything, but I never played this move because it's not consistent with any of my ideas. It's like a move you would just play like kind of mindlessly, like, oh, I just got to develop the knight. But these moves all have a very specific purpose and very specific problem causing purpose, and we're not wasting even one move, right? A6, like I said, is useful. It was the very first move I played this game, but it's very useful. Knight to a4 would be a big problem if this bishop had to get traded, but it just comes right back there. Shout out to a6. Okay, h3 I think is a good move because, like I said, if you just play like bishop to g2 here, which is kind of the most obvious thing to do, then h4 comes, and this seems really bad because my next moves are knight d4 and h3, and then the bishop moves, and then I take this knight. So I think here what my opponent did of playing h3 and forcing my hand to capture, queen takes f3, knight to d4, and the queen has to come right back to d1. Not really obvious where else she goes. Maybe queen g2 was possible, trying to play bishop e3, but even bishop e3, I can play like knight c2 check. Okay, imagine I just do kind of something. Bishop e3, I would play knight c2 check, queen takes, and bishop takes e3, and that's not a bad trade for me at all. The dark square bishop, now, without its counterpart, is just a monster, cutting castling in every direction, takes f4 and queen h4 on the table here. So this looks pretty good for black. So queen g2 an option, but queen d1, there's logic to it. This setup, there's also logic too, right? This is what they were going for with h3. So instead of just h4, just completely undermining this structure and potentially takes, and then this becoming very weak, right next to their king, here they have the very strong response g4. Not that, you know, there's still other ideas like takes, right? So this is one of the engine's ideas here, zigzagging the knight into g6. That was doable, right? Knight g6, queen f6, knight f4. I was talking about these ideas. But okay, I took a slightly different approach, which is just the immediate knight to e7. Just the immediate knight to e7, and I thought I still had that idea in my back pocket if I wanted it to. For example, I thought like bishop to d2. Now I would do the same idea. h4, g4, takes, make you move it one more time. Takes, and knight g6, right? So, but apparently the best move for white is h4, just taking away this, which is kind of a crazy move to make. I guess it's going here and maybe stopping. Now maybe it causes me a problem. This is where I wanted to castle. I played h5. I don't want to castle here, and my rook is now gone once I castle there. Interesting. Really hard move to find, h4, I think. Really hard move to find because it looks like you've already set up in the way you want. And h4, like it just it didn't occur to me. But the bishop's doing nothing here, and it's actually doing a really annoying job here. So, interesting idea. So I needed to play h4 first. Okay, knight e7, not a bad move by any stretch. This is where the knight wants to go. Pretty much a categorically useful move. Bishop to g2, honestly, fine choice. It's hard to justify anything here for white. And now I play your c6. Okay, it wanted me to go to this idea. h4, g4 takes. I could have. I just didn't want that. I didn't like the idea of that bishop developing in one go because I'm like, it needs to develop anyway. I want to make them burn a move. But takes knight g6. Okay, I understand why this is very strong. My queen comes to f6 and knight pours into f4. And I just have dominant dark square control. Again, castling's just not on the table for them. I just check and just take that rook, or check and take this bishop. So you just can't castle into that guy. And again, anytime the bishop comes to e3, this is actually a very nice trick. Takes e3. Okay, queen g5. Again, speaking of dominant dark square control, you are all on light squares. You don't control the other half of the squares. All right. I think c6, though, that I played is very justifiable because A, I wanted maybe to play f5 at some moment, and I didn't like the idea of that bishop streaking down. B, knight d5, even at the end of the line that I was just showing, like hitting the bishop here or something, hitting c7 can be annoying. And what did I say? A, B, or did I say 1, 2? 3, or C, the queen can come out in this direction. The queen can come out in this direction, whether to a5 or b6, hitting b2, and coming in bishop f2. So I think it had a lot of purposes, c6. And again, white is pretty tied down. I think anything is pretty much fine. Knight e2, yeah. So I was recommending f5 for white, and I think that is kind of a good idea to make sure that the center of the board where your king is stays closed. Knight e2 they played. I get it. This knight was really doing a lot of damage to them. And what they wanted is for me to take them. And then to potentially help their position as a result, maybe supporting bishop e3. That wasn't going to happen. I play queen b6, so I'm like, okay, your knight moved. Let me jump on that with queen b6. No knight to a4. Now, once you trade, bishop takes d4. This looks, again, I just transposed my advantage. This bishop now is even more dominant. It went from here, just really good on one diagonal, to here, now an absolute monster in a couple diagonals. You're definitely not castling short. I control that so well. I'm also threatening bishop f2 check, taking that. By the way, your pawn's on h2. And then also pressure here. So tough situation for white. The engine's recommending queen b3 and just going into this endgame down a clean pawn. I can also maybe even dodge this queen trade, I think. Yeah, it's also very viable to just dodge the queen trade. Okay. Bishop takes d. Yeah, so pressure here. Hard to develop this guy. What do we got? Queen e2. And now just the very simple long castle. So very comfortably, I've had no issues all game, and I've just caused them lots of issues. Like they're like a duck under the surface, right? Or it looks like maybe they're just playing bishop g2 and queen e2, but really they're struggling to find a spot for their king with the legs paddling very quickly. It's tough. This position's tough. This bishop kills you. This bishop kills you. There's just no way around it. There's just no way around it. Like, this pawn came to c4. It couldn't come to c3 to maybe support d4. Anything just blocking this. And it just frustrates them to no end. Even if there's no immediate KO. An immediate KO would be with the rooks. We haven't used like the heavy hitters, right? If we're able to trade the pawns, that's what I was talking about. Then, okay, king stuck in the middle. Rooks just kill you, right? That's what we're talking about. So f5 or d5. Let's start putting those on the table. So for that reason, okay, I was recommending f5 for white, but okay, it's not my last break in the position by any means. I would start prepping for d5. They played your king d1, which I get, right? Okay, we've had enough. We're stuck in the middle. Let's just get to that general direction, and maybe we can be safe. So I also just mimic king d8, which is a totally fine move. In general, when you castle, you want to get off there. And if I'm playing d5, okay, I want to get off the c line. Also for my rook, if that king is coming to c2, which it was. King c2, and I didn't even think about this move d5, but it was good, right? I mean, how could it not be good? How could it not be good? My king is going to be untouched by this. My knight is going to be jumping into lots of nice squares here, right? It's just gonna hop around, and he wasn't doing much before. And this just blow it open. Just blow it open. Yes, I help one piece. But opening the board is generally, it's hard to do that without doing something for the bishops. And this is still a moment, like I can give them a few moves, like rook b1 here, defending this. Okay, and then maybe they can tuck their king away. But I have some time right now where this is going to be the moment to strike. So d5, I think, was good for that reason. Again, the engine's saying f5. Try to do as few pawn trades as possible, right? So, okay, we trade here, and they keep as much closed as they can. Okay, I mean, I try to open more up with g6, and maybe they can hold me off on just this file. My opponent had enough suffering. That's the other thing of tying them down. It's like, eventually they're just going to lash out. It's like in boxing too, you know, if you're getting boom, 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 you're just going to try to do some overcommitment, and then, okay, you get under that and counter them after they overcommit. So, same idea here. They play e takes d5, c takes d5, and like rook b1 here, but okay, their king is very far from safety. So we throw in that. Pawn trades are good. Pawn trades are good. You saw the position a couple moments ago where it was just totally locked up. The rooks need to get into the game. The rooks are the decisive factors in the attack, right? So we've built it all up. We've tied them down. We've made things difficult for their king. And now we've got things ready to support the pawn trade away from our own king, right? All 8 files start out blocked. The rooks really get a raw deal in chess, and they start in the corners. They need to come into the middle or castle or something. We need to trade something and free them. They're very underutilized pieces, particularly at lower levels. D5, make those pawn breaks, pawn trades, that is, where it will benefit your rooks. And that's exactly here where my rooks are and where their king is, particularly. So take, right? Their rooks were not to be benefited by this, and now look at these files. In particular, the square I got was knight f5. The engine's recommending here e4, which is hard for me to see the reasoning. I think it wants to bring the knight here or something like this. Okay, whatever. Knight f5 is a very human move. G3 is something that's unprotected. Look at unprotected things in the position as well. And now this is quite nice, because if something like queen to f3, all I need to do is either play e4 or just move this bishop anywhere, and then it's hard to keep my knight out of this d4 square as its other target. Yes, I did open this up, the bishop, right, when I allow that pawn to trade, so I do have to IB7. But okay, something like e4 here takes even rook e8 right now. I can give this knight because they are just getting absolutely slaughtered here, for instance. Okay, in the game, b4 is played, which I get, right? Because here, if I just kind of take this rook, which is possible, but they're like, okay, give me something, like c5, b5, something coming at you with b7, opening this file onto the b7 point. Give me some semblance of counterplay. Here is where I tried to take that all away with this move, queen to g6 check. Queen to g6 check. Now, okay, queen d3, and I'll just kind of play e4, shove that right in your face. So you need to hold this mate threat. It's hard to hold the mate threat, because the king has to step onto here, and then, okay, there's some bishop moves, or even just e4. Even just e4, right? Queen g6 check, what it does is it defends the knight. So the king steps here, just e4, that's protected, and you don't have anything here. Otherwise, okay, king b3 makes this even worse. That comes with check. f5 I didn't see. I will freely admit I didn't see. But I think it's still like a practical choice here. Like, okay, there's some confusion whether I'll win this. I mean, there really shouldn't be. But I guess they do have some counterplay. Whereas just the simple queen to g6 check and takes f5, okay, it wasn't the engine's top choice. But even if I did see it, I might have played it anyway here, very comfortably up 2 pawns in the endgame. And, you know, without like a queen and a rook that can get to me. I don't know, but it's yeah, I mean, it's comfortably up 2 pawns. I have no doubt about winning this position, and a win is a win. So f5 was a good move here, right? My queen is hit, and I have to defend mate and the knight, so I can't defend all those things. So I have to take here. My next move has to be check, or I get checkmated, and then we trade queens, king b3. And I like how I started out here with bishop to e3. Clear, the bishop is now kind of just there. It was dominant before, but now it's not cutting castling or attacking anything. And it was taking away maybe knight d4 and rook to d3 invasions. So bishop to e3 is nice, right? Because if we take, the knight takes e3, rook comes in, these pawns that then just flow right behind the pieces. So, and the other rook comes to d8. So it looks pretty nice. And also the bishop pair could have been annoying otherwise. They tried to dodge that, but now here comes rook to d3. And now it's hard to find a square for the king, right? Not letting the king, again, get to just a safe square out of the way, in which case I'd have to deal with bishop to e4 for king here, and bishop takes e5, right? The bishops can do a lot to you in open positions. But here, okay, king c2, I would win the bishop. So rook to d3 was pretty forcing, right? That's unpleasant as well. Rook to d3 was pretty forcing with king a4. And now this is, again, an unnecessary level of precision, but we played here knight to d6, which is quite nice, because what knight to d6 does is it attacks c4, right? It attacks c4. So if you play something like to not get mated, like anything actually that just doesn't move the bishop. Oh no, you are mated. What do you got here? Takes here. King a7 supporting this. Filthy. King a7 stepping around. That's so cute. That's actually so cute. I probably would have found that. I think I would have found that, Zach. I almost wish I got that. Knight to d6, the other thing it does, in addition to attacking c4 and giving cute king mating patterns, is just shield this from being check. And even though it's a pin, we are still able to finish the game as such with this nice little checkmate. And in fact, that was only the 29th move, but it felt like we played a lot longer. Let me talk about the opening for a little bit. let me talk about the opening for a little bit. But let me actually field some questions from chat specifically about this game. What about 7 knight d4? Yes, yeah. So a lot of moves here are good. In the game here, I opted for h5, right? Which, you know, I have one idea, but one idea typically isn't enough to win a game, right? Knight d4 here. Okay, it's a good move. Great square for the knight, right? After h3, I'm probably going to end up taking with the bishop here. But it's like, then what, right? So okay, they dealt with f3. I mean, I could admire my knight, but I need to cause them a problem. And causing them a problem would mean my pawn being on h3. So, you know, I kind of held this. I knew I could play knight d4 anytime I wanted. And I was like very happy to play h5 here, causing them a number of issues. One, undermining g3, and the other that they can really no longer use the g2 square for the bishop so long as that's there. But knight d4 was not a bad choice. What about 20 bishop to a1? It's cute here, right? It's cute here, right? So they're like, the knight is doing a lot of dangerous things, two things. And there's logic when a piece is doing two things to you and you can't guard both, just guard neither, right? If both of them are going to be bad. So it's like why exert the energy playing like, I don't know, queen somewhere. It's hard to justify anything, but the bishop can just go somewhere else here. And now knight d4 feels pretty unstoppable, for example. So just guard neither and try your own idea. c5, b5, like I don't know, just try to get them. I respect this. b4, just give it a shot. Give it a shot. Here, at least you have a shot of like c5, b5, some problem there, pawn trade, opening this. So here, so I was focusing on my one idea of knight takes g3, which is forcing. Bishop to a1 is interesting. The bishop can go anywhere, right? With knight to d4 being in tow. Yeah, not a bad choice. And specifically, I like a1 because if I go along this diagonal, then bishop can come to kind of... Oh, well, this is check. This is brutal, actually. This is not what you wanted. So I was going to say bishop b2 covers this. But bishop a1, it's hard to stop this move. It's really hard. And in fact, like even if you move the queen, check, now the king has no good squares. This needs to step onto this line of fire. So it's pretty funny. Otherwise, they got to go rook d1. And then, okay, I mean, yeah, it's still brutal. Or, I mean, they wanted to maybe sacrifice the rook. Bishop a1, not a bad move and a pretty cute one. But okay, I don't know. I got 2 exclams by Lead Chess Tools for this. I got 2 exclams by Lead Chess Tools. All right, wait, let's have a look. All right, I want to finish this discussion about this opening. c4, a6. c4, a6. It's a very interesting line. And I understand why it might look ridiculous. The main option for white, as I mentioned, was knight c3. But we play your b5. Takes, right? I mean, what else do you do, right? So I just played b5. You think you stopped it, but you didn't. I played it. And in fact, it's almost the only condition where I would have played it. b5 really has no purpose. Like if I'm just taking on c4, let's say this knight's on b1, I just took on c4. It doesn't really achieve I just spent a few moves, maybe helping you develop a little bit. And here white is just better. The point is like bothering you. And then this knight kind of has no good squares. Here it just continues to get pestered or you just gotta go back home. Right? In which case, okay, I'll do that anyway, probably, and take the space. So it's hard to decline this gambit because b4 hitting that knight is no good spot for it to go. There's really no good spot for it to go. And there's a similar logic here in the Graif-Benko, which is just after d4 knight f6, we actually have the same idea. Okay, so you pretty much have to accept this, which is also just an awesome feature of a gambit, undeclinability. Don't like when they just get declined, right? They just get past it. Okay, d5. So now what? If you just kind of ignore this, For example, I think the most common move, okay, well now it's d4. When I first recorded the video, the most common move was knight c3. My lines catch on. You got to be there, stay tuned for when they're brand new and nobody knows what to do. Knight c3 we can force next turn with c6 anyway. Knight c3 back. And then we're just playing d4. And we're really just hitting this knight continuously. Trying to play now h4 to trap it. And okay, here, I don't know. We just have a phenomenal position here after e5, queen d5. Take the whole middle of the board, right? This knight can't come out because of pawn e4. Also, we can take a2. this knight can come into b4, potentially c2. They can never play a3 to kick the knight away because the rook just pins that guy. So a takes b4, loses the rook. Otherwise, this is just a lot of fun. They've moved the knight so many times, it's not obvious how they would ever bring that bishop out. e3, there's d3 right in their face. Right in their face, like e3, d3. I remember this actually from my video. We play this move d3 and e4. It's just so brutal they can't develop. Okay, so lots and lots of fun lines if they play knight c3. Okay, d4 is the best move, but okay, there's some fun lines here. You should check out the full theory video here. We can give this pawn as well. d4, queen d5, and continuing to just cause them mayhem, mayhem, mayhem. Here, e4. I have some nice games in this position, so this is a good one too. Otherwise, we make a6 useful in every case, right? This is just one example, but otherwise, okay, e6 and d5, right? So for example, here in d4, I don't know, an English player could do this. d5, a6 is a useful move. Why? Because I want to play, let's say you play e3 and I go here and you develop. It's especially nice if I can make you move twice, right? Rather than just one move, bishop takes e4, I made you burn a move. a6 is good because I just play b5 here. And I play bishop b7. This is nice. My pawn was here in the way, but I got it over here. And now my next move is c5 here, and this is at least equality. At least equality. Okay, that's just a very conservative option for white. There's other fun things you could do. I will say, like, playing b5 without the knight there, not, like, it's possible. But I don't like it so long as there's bishop takes c4. What I do like is if, right, so if they commit something like this, where we play b5 timed in this position, where the bishop is committed in that direction, but after bishop g2, we still have bishop to b7 to counter that. I like b5 here, and this is a nice way actually to play against the Catalan. So that is a fun option. So but basically a6 is useful in every case. I also have another nice video on g3, which a lot of players do. Okay, g3. What do? We can play with this, but we can also play with the same idea, bishop c5, storing the bishop back here, and then a Grand Prix attack. So a6 is useful in that case as well. There's really nothing they can do. And otherwise, d4, we can play this move, knight to f6, which already transposes to the Graif-Benko, which is another awesome line on my channel. This here, e6. Okay, this is really fun stuff. This is really fun stuff. Similar-ish ideas. You guys gotta check out these videos. These are gambits that people don't know about. Can you link your YouTube channel? Yes, I can. I am the Gambit Man. I'm the Gambit Man. In fact, here, I'll just link this link tree. Because this link tree right here is all the gambits. All the gambits. If you don't know what to do against the French, that one's right there. It's all here. I will link that as well. What we are talking about today is the one against c4, which is here, the Alphabet Gambit. How was I forgetting the name? Alphabet Gambit. It makes so much sense because we play with A and B against the C. So it is the Alphabet Gambit, c4, a6, as you can see here. And the other one is the Graif-Benko attack. And you can also, when you click on one of these, Gambit check. So there's the original theory video right there. But also, okay, all the examples of me playing it to come up with more ideas. And in our Discord server, which is awesome as well, people share games and discuss their own opening ideas. And we trailblaze theory together. Join. Discord link is also here in the link tree. Subscribe. Favorite is Budapest. Nice. All right.
William Graif, the Gambit Man, takes his seat at the board. e4, e5, knight f3, bishop c5. The Bushgas Gambit on the board. On with the Gambit classes. Hero pod unlocked.